Hello everyone, this is Denise at Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and I am almost finished with the Faulkland. Almost anyway. And I have the camera turned this way because I thought for once it'd be important for you to see what my hands are doing while I'm spinning. And this is still pretty close to the orifice for me. Normally, I would like to be like fingertips, arm's length from the orifice. But this will have to do for now. At least you'll be able to get a really good view of, or maybe how I'm doing this. Let's see, am I banging anything? Okay, let me start with my tension down. And I'm going to go ahead and move this hook over here. Oh, that's too far down. And adjust that. A lot of times I pre-draft this, kind of depends on how it flows and what I'm comfortable with. I could pre-draft it again, but I think this will work fine because this is a decent roving and it flows really nicely. Okay, so that tension seems about right. And like I said, you can get a pretty good idea of staple length. And yes, I am pulling this backwards. Sometimes I pull it forward, sometimes I pull it backwards. Really, it just depends. Either way, it's short, it's not a long draw, and I'm not letting fiber into the drafting zone. I'm pinching it off. Just kind of feeling for how much twist I want in the fiber, basing it on a crimp. I think I might do a more in-depth video on how to make yarns the sizes that you want. Oh, matter of fact, I'm supposed to do the exercise for thick and thin for the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. If you haven't found the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs, it's a whole separate playlist, and there's a Facebook group for it that we haven't done much in a while. It's just been so busy doing other things, surprisingly. And so I need to go ahead and do another episode of that. And on that one, we were talking about making thin and thick yarns as a practice to learning how to control the amount of fiber you put into the drafting zone, which controls the thickness of your yarn. You don't need 4 plies to get worsted weight yarn. You just need to learn how to add fiber back into the drafting zone at the thickness you need it to get the thickness of yarn you want. And it's muscle memory, hand, and eye coordination, and focus to some degree. Oh, sorry about that. It was just pretty much dragging little Faulkland strands all across my skirt. You know this, the whole don't spin while wearing black, but it certainly makes it easier for you to see what I'm doing in the video, doesn't it? And of course, as usual, I'm treadling really fast, which is not even close to necessary. My whirl is on the highest setting to compensate for that. I could slow it down. This is not a thing I can't control. This is my choice. I just like the feel of the wheel going fast. If I were to change the whirl setting and add a little more tension, I could go slow. If you want to go slow and steady, hey, however you feel. That's just how I like it. Almost lost that one. Let's back that out. This is a good time to stop and change hooks. Okay, see how thin that was? The key to adding the fiber on. Just kind of look at that space. Now, knowing how much twist to add, that just takes some practice. It's almost like an intuitive thing. If you're a beginning spinner, the first stuff you spin is going to be over twisted or not enough twist, and you just learn by feel, by eye, just by rhythm, how much twist you need to add. And this is something that I do for every breed study. Some breeds need a little more twist than others. Some tolerate a little more twist than others. And I much prefer to balance my yarn properly in the spin and ply than trying to weigh it or whack it. Because that twist may look like it's relaxing and redistribute, but when the piece is wet, it's just still in there. I don't know, does that qualify as conservation of the law of energy? Now, I have not quite decided what I'm planning for this to be. I brought home some woolly lycra from Praxis. I thought I'd make this into a sock, but I wish I had really thought about this before, because this would have been perfect to card with the Angora to make Angora socks. And normally I would say that the New Zealand auto knitter requires a really thin sock yarn, which is a thinness or thickness that I really don't care to spin, which is pretty much what I'm spinning now. This is not my normal spin. It's just a Faulkland. It just seemed like it wanted this. But anyway, so I would normally not spin socks at the weight that machine requires. I think someone had is 2,400, somewhere between 21 to 2,400 stitches per inch, or 21 to 2,400 yards per pound. Thank you. And so that's normally not what I would spend for sock yarn for a 3-ply. I just generally find it tedious. Like I said, present spin, well, anyway. So I thought to myself, well, I've got the large needles now. I can spin whatever weight I want for these Angora socks. So I'm thinking, I've got another few ounces of some type of roving, and I could do a 60-30. Well, you know what, I think I want more nylon or mohair, whatever else I'm going to put in there. Maybe a 50-40, no, 50-30-20. That sounds about right for the Angora sock yarn. Or I could count my miscellaneous 10% with this wool lycra blend, and then use it as the 3rd ply. Single ply of Angora, single ply of wool, Or I will card the wool and the Angora, and then just use the woolly lycra as a reinforcement. Use more like 4 plies then. Woolly lycra is really thin, and it's let me think, 75% wool, I think, 15% lycra. So I'm thinking for Vlogmas, which I plan on doing, I think I might do the whole Angora socks project. Now there is an Angora sock yarn, so if you're thinking to yourself, Angora socks, wouldn't that be too warm, or will they not hold up, or anything like that? If you're thinking along those lines, the giant Angora, I think it's a giant Angora Rabbit co-op, has been producing an Angora sock yarn for a very long time. Not only that, but they have the Angora sock yarn turned into socks at the mill, and it's 30% Angora. So it's not like I'm trying out some new revolutionary thing. There's definitely a precedent for it. What I won't be doing is a merino sock. If I do make an Angora sock yarn, I can use something like maybe Finn, or something just a little more durable than merino. That still leaves the question as to what this is going to become. I don't know. And you know what? It's very light, and I don't mean that it's thin. There are some fibers that are thin and still have more weight to them, like the long wools, of course. Mohair. Thin mohair yarn will have a bit of weight to it. But this is fairly light and fluffy. So I'm not really sure. I kind of like my shawls to sit on my shoulders. I like to be able to feel them. Except for the Angora, of course. But usually when I do those, I just use a heavier yarn. I kind of like that feel of it sitting on my shoulders. And this strikes me as something that's going to be very, very light. Let me change that hook. You know, it's very tempting to knit this as a single. And I still have that Shetland. I was supposed to do some type of wedding shawl type thing. Warrenburg style with that Shetland. I have to figure out where that went. I want to make a Shetland shawl. And let's be honest, I really don't have the patience for a Shetland shawl. I don't really have the patience for any large knitting project. think the Sontag is the, not, you know what, that I can think of. The Sontag is the largest knitting project that I've done. I did a sweater vest, and it was short sleeve, so cut that off. I think the Sontag was larger than that. A couple hundred yards, 700 yards or so, which is not much when you're talking about knitting projects. I've done large crochet blankets. I've got a large crochet blanket on my bed now. I don't think I've vlogged about that, I'm not sure. But anyway, I haven't done any large knitting projects. So I don't make those big massive shawls. There's a lady in the Angora Bunny Spinners group named Leslie, I believe it's Leslie Horton. And she just makes the most beautiful lace shawls. I have tried to remember to ask if they're Shetland lace patterns or if they're Estonian. And wow, that's all I gotta say. I just don't have the patience for that. This is so thin that even when I apply it, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with it. Probably, you know what? I will probably just run it through the sock knitting machine at a really wide gauge and maybe knit it flat, turn it to a long scarf. That's always a possibility. All right, people, we're in the home stretch here. I remember when I first started, and when you get the Louette, you get 2 pounds of roving. And basically, I went through that pound of roving, and I got 100 and something yards from a pound of roving. Actually, to be honest, I went back and untwisted that yarn eventually, and drafted it out and spun it again later on. It was some seriously really bulky yarn, and now I can get 120 something yards or from an ounce. So that's a big difference. That's the thinnest I've ever actually tried to spin. I think it was 166 yards for an ounce of Rambouillet, and I made the, what is it, the Spring Garden kerchief, which I think has either a knit with me or a pattern spotlight video. It's the pink one with the white edging, or is it the white one with the pink edging? I don't know. All right, here we go. We are at the end. Didn't lose too much to the skirt. So stay tuned to see what I finally decide to do with this stuff. Thank you for watching. I want to thank all my subscribers. Click that like button if you liked it. If you didn't like it, well, it'd be nice to know why you didn't so you can help me improve. Subscribe, and I have a link to my Patreon below. So if you have a little time and you want to help me build up that Patreon, just jump on and give me some suggestions about how I have it set up so I can figure out how to make it work. Thank you so much. Have a great day.